already. Oh, here. Today's topic is meritocracy is a fair system for education. The definition of meritocracy is a system which advancement is based on individuals' grades or scores. The first type of meritocracy is not just about grades and results, but also character, leadership, and a broad range of talents. Because such definition of meritocracy exists, bursary and EduSave were awarded to students regardless of their background. This is to be fair to everyone and also to motivate them to study hard and hence achieve their fullest potential, as meritocratic system in Singapore is coupled with the principle of non-discrimination. In such light, many people will disagree about the fair and equal meritocracy system that would benefit anyone and everyone regardless of their background. Some would think that how much a mother's relative income influences that of his adult son, which in other words means that the rich would benefit with more education than the poor ones. And this is the second type of meritocracy with discrimination. Over the world, different countries have education systems which are being run differently. The common being the system of meritocracy and system of equality. Today we will be focusing on the system of meritocracy and whether it is the best system for education. Before we begin, a brief description of So what are your views? Shamil, Kevin.
I believe that meritocracy is a fair system for education, and there's provision of equal opportunities towards education in different groups, helping to realize potential and devote the ability to the hard work in mobile, thus changing the structure of social inequality. It ensures fairness. Talented students who are more deserving and better nurtured. Students who are less talented are nurtured, much due to a lack of understanding, and are developed in other areas other than studies. For example, the GEP Singapore Gifted Education Program identified the 0.5% of Singaporeans from each academic year with the highest global mathematics and spatial aptitude. The potential of each pupil is recognized, nurtured, and developed. It is recognized that these pupils who are intellectually gifted and that they should be proven to meet their needs. There should be provision.
What?
Louder.
What's the other one?
Who are intellectually gifted and that there should be provisions to meet their needs. Right? Because they're smart, you need to cater to their needs, so you need to come up with these programs.
What I think is the right part. So, when students apply for GP, they must go through a certain test, and that test will only take place when they are in primary school, I believe. Like in primary 3, when they are not mature enough to take that test. That test, some early mature ones, they will be able better to focus on the test and know what GEP is all about. But some who are less mature and they take GEP as like a normal class test and they don't do well. And probably, most probably some of them have the potential to be in GEP, but because they do not know what GEP is and they're not mature enough.
Wait, sorry to interrupt you. What do you mean by, is it GP or GDP?
GEP, Gifted Education Program.
Okay.
You're only talking about public school life, but secondary school life, there are other programs other than GEP, where students can further develop their talent and skills, such as government giving them scholarships and will be maybe be able to transfer to other better schools. So it does not really have to depend on the GEP. Also doing well for PSLE can provide them a better future, or doing well for O levels.
Yeah, true. I agree. What about for those who are not academically strong in the GEP game, then they cannot enter the program?
In meritocracy, those without merit who have equal access to the best education money can buy, they will go to school, get educated, and start making informed decisions in a
Don't do that. Don't change your script in the first meeting.
No, it doesn't make sense.
But Kevin, what about those who are less well off and are unable to fund the high amount of school fees in which they do not have opportunities in the first place, or those who are not academically excelled in the first place?
Okay, for those who are not well off, the government will provide them with scholarship. They can apply for them. So they will still work hard so that they will receive for this. And on the other hand, when we say about those who are not academically good, the government can develop them with further areas other than such as character, leadership, and
Wait, the government will develop it. I don't think
Okay,
it
school will give them opportunities to develop their character, leadership, and other ways. So it doesn't have to only be education.
Wait, it doesn't have to.
Be education, so be
And
other
you
ways.
almost like,
Yeah, okay, really. It's like meritocracy or they really emphasize on the no, in Singapore, right, meritocracy is not just about grades and results, but also character and like a broad range of talents. And the other one is the definition of meritocracy, which is a system based on individuals' grades or scores.
character building can be part of education. Just don't make yourself our point. If you say immediately that's not education, then you're saying you're our point. Why are you saying that you're our point yourself? It is part of education. Okay? Sharon, just now you were saying.
Not that anticipated. Right. So let's move on to the next part of it. In my opinion, I felt that meritocracy is not the best system for education. That is because many of those rich people are able to study in the school that has more advantages and more programs that the students can benefit from, as compared to a poor family who have to send their child to a less well-off school, a school where has fewer programs and fewer opportunities for them to excel better. So I felt that this big gap in the education system prevents meritocracy from being implemented fairly in the system.
So you mean that money decides everything?
Because money in a world of inequality, money is one of the obstacles that prevents the system of meritocracy to be fair. And also in some countries like the United States, the government has not done enough to address this problem where schools have at least the basic programs and necessities in order for the students to excel as better or as well as those
institutions and will remain taught at the same time receive benefits due to the democratic system of education, and where else the poor will be left behind and will not receive such benefits.
Wait, but what about the edusave and bursary?
The edusave and bursary is only given to a small percentage of the top few students in each school.
Because if
not really
the
good
less
edusave.
rich people work hard, they would still be able to benefit.
But how are they going to work hard without having tuitions?
You can.
Not everyone.
The not so rich people are able, they're still able to look for teachers in the school for extra lessons. They not only have to rely on tuitions. Also regarding the rich of being able to afford more, to pay more for better education, especially in schools. How about the FAS, financial system? Is it called FAS? Financial system. Financial system scheme. The poor are able to apply for that, and if I'm not wrong, it applies to subsidize the school fees, right? So if that was the case, right, why the poor is able to get a better education? Because there's a subsidy from the government, and that's why I disagree with the points.
Yes, though there are subsidies from the government, however, those in the far more well-off schools, they have independent programs in which they are rarely funded by the government, or not funded by the government at all. But as you compare to majority of the students there, the programs funded by the government, and these programs, most of the students are able to enjoy. But in more well-off schools, you look at independent programs, they are more special, and they are the so-called more unique people as compared to neighboring schools. So, given that neighboring schools and students have somewhat the same talent as compared to more well schools, won't they be just simply enjoying the same thing, or the same talents as compared to those in the more well schools, who enjoys even better opportunities still, despite funding from the government?
Can you summarize everything you said? Repeat that.
I mean, like, a less well-off schools, right, despite funding from the governments, right, in compared to all neighboring schools, they still have the same talents and opportunities, but in the more well-off schools, they have even greater talents and opportunities, even though they do not have any funding from the government. So, the government has probably not allowed at least some neighboring schools to have at least a program, or somewhat a program that matches the same as those in more well-off schools or independent schools.
When Andre said that there is FAS to help the poor people, I believe that there are a lot of people who do not have FAS but are not rich as well. They are not that poor to receive FAS or any scholarship, but they are not that rich to be on the same level as those rich people studying in private schools or in independent schools and receiving many more benefits than them. So they're like this middle class stuck in between these two classes, and I think they are the most disadvantaged one because they do not receive any subsidies and they do not receive those benefits that the rich receive as well.
So you're referring to having an equal education system for all?
Possibly.
So I believe meritocracy is still not a fair system for education because of the disadvantages to the middle
Can I bring in a different system?
Huh?
Can I bring in a different system?
Bring in a different system. Don't ask.
Just go with this.
How about the system of everyone receive equal benefits and they will be able to develop in their own areas and there will not be anyone left behind. Such as an example is British education, which is a left education meritocracy system. It focuses on equality, where there's equal opportunities given to students and those equal opportunities given to students and they can be able to go to universities and attend programs. So why is equality not the best education system for education state?
Because if there is equality, I think that the whole economic system, economic development will sustain, will be not as good as meritocracy, because there are people out there who are actually hardworking and can actually achieve more than others. But if there's a system of equality where everyone has to be equal, then the whole economic development will not develop as much.
How if we follow the slight equality and we provide slight benefits to those who work hard and form of rewards?
Then there is still inequality there. How is that equality?
Equality because you provide a fair system, everyone gets the same type of education and those who work well, just who work in the form of cash or gift, then they will be driven to work harder in the future aspects of their life.
When you mention about equal opportunities, do you mean that everyone in the education system received the exact same?
Yeah, I mean like maybe studying certain subjects or something.
But if you have equal education system, right, people will not be motivated to work hard because they know that all of them, they are getting the same thing.
But that's not feasible. I mean, how can equality be feasible? A feasible system, because not everyone. But because not everyone can learn the same subject. Not everyone has the same interest and has the same career path that they want. Not everyone has the ability to even learn the same thing, to pay for the same thing, to do the same things. So I think it is impossible to actually make everyone do the same thing.
So Kevin, are you following the system of communism? Is that your ideology? Where you make everybody do exactly equal?
Not exactly equal in a sense. I mean, they do not receive extra benefits in education system such as going for these GEP programs. They can choose to change the subject of their choice, but they are receiving equal opportunity for all.
Like I said again, the economic development will sustain. What is the use of all these programs? It is to cater to other talents of the students. If you don't provide any for this, then the whole picture, it's not good for the whole picture. Is there any other system?
You mean like you will lose out competition if everything were to be just the same?
Yeah.
In a more competitive, more innovative world, you cannot have a system where there is exactly same opportunities for every particular person in the country. Then if not, where will they get more opportunities? They will simply just migrate out of the countries. What happens to the economy and socially has greater consequences in the country. So bear that in mind.
Don't say better.
I believe there is also inequality in terms of the system of meritocracy in other countries, especially undeveloped countries. Because in undeveloped countries, there is meritocracy, but it is not fair.
another point, maybe she's trying to refer that in Singapore, in independent school, about 6 out even undeveloped countries, independent schools, majority of them will be living in private property, and the minorities would be having a poor lifestyle, and this gap of this big gap of the difference between the rich and the poor would bring about an unequal society. So therefore, it's still unfair.
Oh, okay. Andre, you haven't spoken for a while. Do you want to speak?
It's time to bring in a new point.
Meritocracy in education, I also think there in some portions, some branches of education, I think meritocracy is not viable in the sense that there are other things that cause meritocracy to not work. For example, if you look in the schools, some or majority of a certain CC, for example, I take, if there's a Chinese dance, many schools would run it as a gender-based, like you have it as for females only, and this allowing the chance for maybe some male dancers who want to learn experience from this this activity that they could have taken if it was open to all genders.
But is that
So
a
you're
part of
looking-
meritocracy?
So you are talking about single-sex schools.
Not really, as I mean, if you look at our students, it's only guys. For example, I mean, like because
Did you say NCC?
this is a very passion. There'll be girls who are interested to join. Definitely, there are people around who are interested in
But
that.
there are other uniform groups for girls to join as well.
Yeah, provided it's substitutes to
I mean,
join.
there is a reason why it's only guys. And I don't see how this is meritocracy.
Okay, maybe we should not take this example, but if I
Okay, I know what you're trying to say. You're trying to say that, right? In that case, meritocracy doesn't come first. Gender comes first. They see your gender. They don't care about how good you are at this particular thing, like Chinese dance. Yeah, so he's trying to say that.
To add on to that, I can also talk about single-sex schools. Single-sex schools, they cater to gender first before looking at the merit.
Yeah.
So
So not fair.
So I still, because there might be people who live near that school and are capable of going to the school, but because of the gender, they can't go in. So meritocracy doesn't count first.
Okay, I think we're out of topic. Let's move on. I think we're out of topic.
I still believe that meritocracy is a federal system by institution, because it acknowledges the hard work of students and brought them through giving them their desired schools. For example, in PSLE, if you score well, you
But as established earlier, rich people will like benefit more, and then middle class people are disadvantaged, and all these problems arise, and this is not.
Because they might,
the government will provide them with scholarship and you'll be
But
further
a
motivated.
very minority get scholarships. They very minority get affairs, and even if they get scholarships, there are other aspects that affect their studies as well. If their family is not well rich enough, then it still affects even though they have scholarship or FAS. So that affects their how well they do in school.
You're narrowed down to a single point of disagreement. So how to resolve this disagreement usually turns to statistics. You say it's a minority. You can say that it's not. You say it's a minority group, you say it's not a minority group. You can say that
say it's a minority.
you can say that there are more people, there are a lot of people in the middle class.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that is actually a huge group.
Yeah. Logic, man, logic.
No logic, no logic.
No, I
Because
feel
about top 10% of each level in each school is provided with bursary award.
But looking at the average income of Singaporeans, it is about
How do you have to know?
okay, it's about 250. Really?
Yesterday I showed you.
He does not middle class.
And if you're talking about rich,
No, not middle
the majority of Singaporeans are in the middle class, so the rich is another small minority. So, if you take meritocracy being the federal system of education, the minority will be for the rich. So, it is not so much affected. So, it's still the federal system. You say the rich, the rich can wish.
Is there another point for this update? Any new point? Then you? Darren?
Can we touch on countries that... What about countries that don't practice meritocracy? Are they also a fair system?
What do you mean by they don't practice meritocracy?
So what is the system that they are practicing?
Equality.
What is the disadvantage and values of that? Maybe you can compare it with this later.
Several countries that don't practice meritocracy, like even in your social studies, Sri Lanka. So, what is the outcome of the system there? How are the Sinhalese and the Tamils feeling?
Discriminated. The Tamils are discriminated, and they are. It is not a system of meritocracy, but a system of where they choose based on your race and your wealth, and not your capability or sense. So it's not fair, and it's even worse than meritocracy.
So, do you still find that meritocracy is still a fair system?
Meritocracy is good,
Or it would...
Or you have a better system than that.
but it's not fair.
Wait, meritocracy will improve that non-meritocratic system we're talking about.
Yes.
Really?
Or could it be better without meritocracy?
Without meritocracy, the situation in Sri Lanka will happen in other countries if there's no meritocracy.
What do you mean by the situation?
The situation you're talking about in Sri Lanka, where meritocracy is where there's no meritocracy because of discrimination.
Discrimination where a particular group of people is disadvantaged, no matter how well they perform.
But without meritocracy, right? Because Singapore has been practicing meritocracy since 1960s, it is where it is now because of that system. Because with meritocracy, it is able to pick up the good ones and those who are actually able to contribute the most to the country. So it is good when it is in a state where it is at the bottom line of economic development. Then meritocracy is able to build it up. But when it is today, when Singapore is already very developed and there is a lot of opportunities, I believe meritocracy is working less effective now.
You mean you can be more effective?
Yeah, it can actually be more effective because it was effective before, but right now it's not as effective anymore.
So that means you're giving more advantages to the...
Yeah, it is way more.
Oh, because right, you're talking about Singapore, right?
Yeah.
Because meritocracy in Singapore has evolved from being only based on grades and results, but also like character and leadership and like a broad range of talent. And because of bursary and EduSave, the poor get benefits as well. So she's asking about it, right?
When we say about merit, we are not just talking about grades, but also character leadership.
Yeah, in Singapore, yeah.
What's your point?
What about meritocracy? So let's put Singapore aside. Let's go to the United States. In the United States, different towns have different systems. Even though the main system is meritocracy, I believe that some towns and some parts are left out because because they do not have the facilities and the states to provide them with equal opportunities.
And what's the point?
I'm trying to say that meritocracy is not fair even in the United States.
Okay then.
Anything else that comes? Please share out.
Do you have any evidence?
You don't listen.
So what, can you elaborate on the rich and poor or something like that?
Summarize that.
If you have nothing,
Can we talk about the legacy admissions? No, right?
I don't know what you're talking about.
What's legacy? I don't know. It's like this article. It's about like
The experience.
yes. I don't know. Like if you are rich, right? Then if you are rich and you come from that certain school, then your son or daughter will be able to get into that school because you were from that school before. And
But what system
Also
is-
about inheritance from rich family, they get a lot more advantages to those whose families are not that.
And also,
wealthy.
because they, their son or daughters, their children are able to get into that particular school because the parents also help the school, like
Yeah,
in terms
volunteer.
of financial, yeah.
So meritocracy is still.
Wait, so is that meritocracy or not?
No matter what.
That is not meritocracy.
So if that is not meritocracy, so it's meritocracy fair.
But it is taught as if it is meritocracy, but in fact it's not. Because it even happens in Singapore, but the whole system of Singapore is meritocracy. But it still happens, meaning that it is said,
But this
it is
is happening in
believed to be
Singapore, you know.
meritocracy.
I thought it's in there.
It's happening in certain schools. not
Yeah,
all.
it's happening in certain schools.
Yeah,
Like
that's why.
high.
It's
That's why it is believed to be meritocracy, but in fact it's not
In primary schools,
meritocracy.
if your siblings are from the
Yeah.
same school, you get directly free. You don't have to do balloting.
But primary
Yeah.
schools is one thing, secondary schools.
It's the same for secondary schools.
So therefore, the whole system of saying the whole picture of meritocracy is not.
So is it meritocracy or not?
No.
It's not
It's not
meritocracy.
meritocracy, but
Meritocracy
it's
is not
belief.
fair.
So if meritocracy is practiced, is it fair or not?
It is not a fair system, that is because
But if this was replaced with real meritocracy, then I think it's fair.
I think it will improve the situation because everybody will get equal opportunities and not based on their parents being in that school like last time.
If it's not based on wealth, if it's not based on the status of their family and parents, and if they only practice meritocracy by looking at the grades and the talents of the students in equally for same level for every student, then this system of meritocracy will be fair.
But again, the rich
Will be
will
better.
be able to afford more tuitions. And the
Oh,
poor,
you know,
and
why are you here?
No, he's right.
someone will receive more tuitions and better education.
Okay, so you mean
out
if
of
we
that.
implement meritocracy, then this
But
thing will happen.
If this problem of entrance just to enter the school and everyone can enter the school only based on their grades and talents, then it is already much better than the system now. If the rich parents can afford tuition, then the poor ones can have
I
more
believe
lessons from
that
the teachers.
everybody will start
Don't
at the
talk on
bottom
top
line.
of her. It's very bad.
Okay, let's summarize.
So you do you believe that meritocracy
Summarize.
is meritocracy a fair system in Singapore?
I believe
No, but is meritocracy the
If
fairer
meritocracy,
system?
but meritocracy and non-meritocracy, they have both advantages and
Yes, yeah, but we have not answered the question. Is meritocracy the fairer system? Not is meritocracy fair?
no,
Yes.
It is not the fair system.
no, it's not a fair system. Obviously,
Yeah,
not
it's
fair.
So
It
which
is
is the
not
so what is the fair system?
Meritocracy is never a fair system for education. That is because there is no equal level of, I would say, not an equal level of
Okay,
value in the first
Okay,
place.
let's
I
summarize.
don't think so.
Wait. Can you all stop interrupting each other?
Yeah.
Please.
Who wants to go ahead?
I repeat, don't interrupt.
Okay.
Meritocracy is never the fair system for education because there is not an equal level of playing field in the first place. Firstly and foremost, because of the rich-poor divide, where the rich gets more opportunities and benefits from such better programs, while the poor gets less well-off and not so better program as compared to those in more well-off schools. Secondly, in some countries they would go by racial discrimination or religion. Oh, sorry. And okay, secondly, that is because even though some of those who work hard did not do well in schools depending on their circumstances, so you can't really measure meritocracy in the sense of no matter how hard you work, but results is more than your efforts or measures the amount of efforts that you have.
So what is the fairer system than meritocracy?
That is for the government to propose.
Wow. Well, what are we discussing about it?
You mean government intervention?
I think Kevin's solution just now was okay. The one
It's not.
but it's in the middle of meritocracy and non-meritocracy, so I think okay, let's summarize. So what's the summarize? Andre, do you want to summarize? What's the summary then?
There's a point to for the whole content we are moving on.
Summary.
Nothing, can you summarize? Nothing.
So when the conference was started, Kevin started by saying that meritocracy is fair because it changes social inequality, and he gave an example of the GEP Singapore. But Pixie rebutted saying that the entrance test might not be fair because the less mature ones will be at disadvantage. And then he rebutted that by saying that they still have a second chance at secondary schools.
Not so detailed. Not so detailed.
Not so detailed.
General.
Okay. So other points made was that the rich achieves more and has more benefits, while the poor also achieves as they receive FAS and scholarship from the government. So the affected ones and the worst ones are the middle class ones, saying that they don't receive any FAS or the rich benefits. We also came up with another system, equality, but we think that it is still not fairer than meritocracy, so it was not proposed. So in a nutshell, meritocracy, we believe it's not the fair system for education, but we could not come up with